says, hey, go at it. So he came back with that one.
And he just drops the paint.
He does drop after drop, and then so he does a stencil outline just with like a pencil just to get like the shape out, but then
He
drops all the paint, and it's just a white canvas.
Hello, I'm your host, Michaela Thomas. Welcome to Kidz Biz, where knowledge is power. Today we will be speaking with Mr. Max Muncey, the Public Relations Manager for the North American International Auto Show here in Detroit. Hello, Mr. Max.
Hello, how are you doing this morning? Afternoon now, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, winding down. A day left to the show here.
What inspired you to become a public relations manager?
So I've always loved cars for a really long time. My dad's been an engineer at GM for 45 years, so I remember him bringing home cool cars growing up, and I always loved cars, but figured out early on that probably an engineer wasn't going to be my strong suit. I'm not a big fan of math. So I found out that I could get into communications and be able to learn and talk about cars all the time. I just didn't have to build them.
Yeah, my friend's name is Aiden. His dad works at GMC too.
Really? Very nice.
How much hard work have you put into being the public relations manager for the North American International Auto Show?
A lot of hard work. So everybody thinks that the show just starts in January and we get all set and to go, and really after the show ends, the day after, we'll start planning for the next year. So it takes a lot of hard work from everybody. And actually what's pretty cool is 9 years ago when I started my job, I was an intern here in the communications office at the PR department. And then I moved around, I worked really, really hard, stayed extra, tried as hard as I could, was really passionate about what I was doing, and now 9 years later I oversee our public relations department. So it's been 9 years in the making, and I'm really proud to be and working for the largest and best auto show in the world.
Well, that is really cool. What is the purpose of the auto show, and how many auto shows are there in a year?
So I would say our show has two purposes. So the first week of our auto show we call press preview. So that's where the automakers come and they'll unveil brand new cars. So this year we had 57 cars that made their introduction at our auto show. So that's the big time for the automakers to come. They show their brand new vehicles and new technologies. And then we had over 5,000 journalists come in 2 days from 60 different countries around the world to do all the articles and to create a global buzz about the announcements here. So that's really week one at our show, is focused on the automakers and the brand new cars. And then Friday evening, so this year it was January 15th, we hold our charity preview event, which is the single largest night fundraiser in the world, which is pretty awesome to be part of. We raised $5.2 million for 8 children's charities here in Metro Detroit. And then that next Saturday morning, we open the doors to the public, and for the next 8 days, we'll bring in about 800,000 people through the doors. And for public show, the big focus is then getting everybody to look, get in the new cars, experience them, take a bunch of photos, and then a lot of those people end up going to the dealerships then to buy new cars in the future. So it's kind of two different purposes for the auto show. And then the second part of your question is, so here in North America alone, we have 72 different auto shows. But we have the privilege of being called a North American International Auto Show. So globally, there's only 4 other international auto shows. There's ours here in Detroit, there's one in Geneva, one in Frankfurt, one in Paris, and then every other year there's one in Shanghai. So we're an esteemed group of other auto shows to be an international one.
I love Paris. But here's another question I wanted to ask
Yes.
you aside. Do you do the auto shows every month or just every January?
So I oversee the public relations just for our show here in January.
Oh.
So I'll travel to the other auto shows, so you may have to give me some tips when I go to Paris.
Yeah.
So I'll go to the other auto shows, and then we meet with automakers to talk about how the show went this year, announcements they had here, what was new, and then also to talk about the upcoming show. So starting in Geneva, so I'll head to Switzerland here in the next month, and then we'll meet with the automakers and then talk about what their plans are for the 2017 show.
I also speak French.
See? I'm gonna need some tips.
How can a person enter their car in the North American International Auto Show?
So all the cars that are on the floor there, and we have over 700 cars on display, all of them are brought in by the automakers. So once we assign an exhibit space for them, then they start out in early October building their exhibits out there, which is pretty remarkable. It takes over 12 weeks to build those exhibits. It's almost like going to Universal Studios right here in Detroit. So after 12 weeks of building the exhibits, the last thing that goes into the exhibits are the cars. So almost Sunday night, hours before we're going to open the doors to 5,000 journalists, the cars finally start to appear, but they all come from an automaker. Okay.
So, is the electric car better than a gas car?
So I think it's tough to say right now. Gas prices are pretty low, so interest in electric cars isn't as strong as I think a lot of people think it should be. So in my opinion, I think the best would be a hybrid car, which is a mix of gas and electric. So you really get the best of both worlds. When you walk out on the show floor today, you'll see Chrysler unveiled a brand new minivan called the Pacifica. So it's a hybrid. So it gets 80 miles to the gallon. It gets 30 miles on an electric charge, and then it can go as long as it needs to on a tank of gas too. So in my mind, as a PR guy, I think the best option is a hybrid at this time, because the electric car, you can only go so far as you know on a charge, right? So if we needed to go up north to go skiing and I couldn't charge the car on the way up there, we're gonna get as far as Frankenmuth and then be pretty stranded. So I think a hybrid is the best option right now until we can get an infrastructure ready that can support charging at numerous different locations.
Lucky for me, because in all the papers I typed for my science project, it has a lot of facts about hybrid cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, hybrids I think are the best, especially because if you think about it, like for the van, for a family, they may only do 30 miles of driving a day. So if they got to drop you off at school, go grocery shopping, run some errands, go to sports after, you may be able to do all that on just one charge for electric. But if you got to drive to Grand Rapids to go visit family, that's the great part about a hybrid, is then you can use some of the gas too on the way and you can get to and from where you need to go.
That's very cool.
Very cool. We'll have to get you out on the show floor. You can see a lot of cool cars.
So the president was here this week. What was it like? Can you please tell us?
It was an amazing experience, both for me to be part of the team that was able to do the planning to bring him on, but from a show standpoint, we're honored to have the president here. We haven't had a president come to the North American International Auto Show since 1999 when Bill Clinton came. But presidents tend to not go to auto shows every year. So to have him come to Detroit to our auto show, it means a lot. It really underscores the importance of our auto show globally, and to highlight the vehicles and the technologies that are on display are really going to shape our industry for years to come. So it was a tremendous honor. The day that he came, I got to wear a special Secret Service pin that allowed me to go out onto the floor where he was at. His limo, which they call the Beast, drove into the show up the loading docks. Got to watch him get out. Got to introduce myself and say hello to him. And then when I introduced myself, I said, Mr. President, I'm Max Muncey with the Auto Show. Pleasure to meet you. And his first thing he said was, Max, amazing show. Happy to be here. So he was really, really nice. He spent an hour here walking around looking at all the cool cars. He got to use a lot of the interactive exhibits to see some of the technologies. So it was an amazing experience. And at the end, I got to get my photo taken with him. So it was something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it was a really great honor to be part of it.
Max, did the president ever ask you any specific questions?
So he asked our chairman of the auto show a lot of questions. So our chairman was his official tour guide. So they walked around for about an hour on the showroom floor. So as the PR guy, you tend to be in the background a lot. So I made the introduction, introduced him to our chairman, and then they walked the show floor together and I hung out in the back.
That must be really exciting.
It was pretty amazing.
What positive message can you give the kids of today?
So I would say be inspired and follow your passion in your career. So early on, I knew I wanted to be into cars, but I just had to figure out how to get there. So I would say start small, get an idea, and then I think it's really important to do a lot of networking and to talk to people that are in the profession that you want to get involved with.
Thank you, Mr. Max, for being on my show.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
I have been your host, Michaela Thomas. Kidz Biz, where knowledge is power. What do you want to be when you grow up? For more information, go to my website, www.kidzbiz7.org. You can always watch my shows on YouTube. I got help from Mr. Max Muncey, Public Relations Manager of the International North American Auto Shows, where I got my facts on how to help my dad make this electric car as in a hybrid car, because this is our gas car, and if we attach it together, it makes a hybrid car. Take your electric car out to drive for from 3 up to 4 hours, and if it's past 3 to 4 hours, then you'll be stranded in the middle of nowhere because the battery would be low. But if you had a hybrid car, if the battery is low, there's always gas stations around, and that's what we're showing. This is what was happening back then. The Pony Express, the old gas stations, and this is what we have now for electric cars. But now, after it's done, using the batteries, you can always go to the nearest gas station and you can fill it up with gasoline. It's speeding. Again, www.KIDZ, like in zebra, BIZ, like in zebra, the number 7.org.